Hey Las Vegas, welcome back to Realty Check. I'm your host Trish Williams, your local Las Vegas real estate news show, here to tell you what's going on in real estate here in Las Vegas. Today we have another good friend of mine, John McNamara III. He's with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, and we are going to be talking today on our show a lot about what's going on with this inventory shortage and ways that you can conquer it. So it's going to be a fun show today. If you're watching our show, please like, comment, share, tell your friends about us, and let's get started. John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today. I'm excited to be here. John McNamara, Berkshire Hathaway. I'm a broker. Been here, been in the business for 17 years. Moved to Las Vegas in 2008 and been loving it ever since. So great town.
You don't seem old enough to be in the business for 17 years. What age were you when you started?
Oh my gosh, thank you. By the way, I'll take that comment all day. I actually just turned 39 on January 11th, and I got in the business. Right out of college. I was 22 years old, went right in the business, worked for my parents right off the bat in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And I've been enjoying it ever since.
Fun stuff. Your parents are rock stars as well. I love your parents. So
they are.
Yes.
They're doing phenomenal. They say hi, by the way.
Yes.
They're Tom Ferry coaches, and they're still doing that and enjoying that. So
yeah, so good. You like grew up in real estate, right?
Yeah, I have third generation. So my grandfather actually was broker of McNamara Realty back in the day in Albany, New York. So I grew up in it. I actually had no intention of getting real estate at all. I went to a Mike Ferry retreat in Albany, New York, and I was like, man, this is so cool. People are prospecting, going on appointments. I bummed out my mom because I was supposed to go work for GE. I went to school for finance.
Oh, okay.
And I told my mom, hey, I'm going to go into real estate. And she thought it was the stupidest idea I could have ever do.
Was she in real estate?
So Elizabeth is actually my stepmother.
Oh, okay.
My mom, Kathy, she did not like the idea.
Yeah.
So, but it all worked out. I'm still in it, still going well. I'm enjoying the process. So, yeah.
Awesome. I always pictured you were like showing homes from the time you could walk.
No, it's funny. I didn't want nothing to do with real estate growing up because it was totally different back in the day. And I don't think my dad would mind sharing, but it wasn't like, it was a lot tougher back in the day, and there wasn't like systems in place.
Yeah.
So after he got into Mike and became a coach, he like went to another level. And I got to see that, how positive he was and how excited he was, and he had those growth, and get to see Mike and these top producers.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into it. And then I got excited about it. But literally it was between my junior and senior year when I was like, man, maybe this is actually something I want to do, because I had all these jobs where I would go and they'd give me a project for an hour or two. I worked for Fidelity, a couple different investment.
Oh, wow.
And there's nothing, I would get the job done in about an hour or two, and then they'd have nothing for me to do for 8 hours. I'm like, I can't do this. So I decided, hey, I'm going to go into a business for myself, and it just happened to be real estate. So.
Yeah. Well, you do great at it, so it was a good choice.
Thank you. Well, you do phenomenal too.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. So, inventory Las Vegas. So our show today is going to be focused on the inventory shortage and ways that we can conquer it. Yeah. Opening up the show, one of the things I talk about every week is single family inventory in Las Vegas. Yeah. Currently, our number is 1956. So our shortage is not getting any better. Every week I touch this number and it's just lower every single week consistently. So we're definitely, it's crazy. That's across every price point. That's not a lot of homes. That's less than 2 weeks inventory. Yeah,
it is less than 2 weeks. This is the lowest. So I've been here since 2008. When I got into the business back in 2009, to date myself a little bit here, to give you an idea, we had 36,000 homes for sale, and we were depreciating by 3% a month. And I came out here thinking, like, what did I just get myself into? Had no idea what the heck I was doing. But yeah, this is the lowest I've actually ever seen inventory. The second lowest was probably back in 2013, where we had about 4,500 homes on the market. So this is literally half of that. So it's pretty incredible what's going on with the shortage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's still buyers out there that want to buy homes. There's lots of buyers out there trying to get into homes. Rates are rising, so there's a frenzy. There's a frenzy going on.
There is, and honestly, I think right now is a great time. If you are a buyer, the next 45 days are going to be huge for you. With interest rates going up, prices going up, I think getting in before the spring market is going to be a huge benefit for buyers because, as you know, spring hits.
Yeah.
That's going to be a great market for sellers because they're going to have 20, 30 offers on their properties. So right now, if you're a buyer, I'll be all in trying to get anything under contract right now.
Right. We usually don't see this activity in January. Usually January is a little slower, not so crazy, but it really feels like spring right now. There's so much activity going on in the market. There's buyer activity. Let me correct that. There is not a lot of seller activity going on in the market. There's a lot of sellers waiting, so that's part of the inventory shortage.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like spring has been going on for like 18 months, right?
This is true.
It started about like June, about a year and a half ago, and that 2 months after the pandemic. Unfortunately, well, a good thing for us, I guess, being in the business, but with migration up 13% from Californians moving out here. New construction, they're about a year behind right now. I know they're upping to build more now, and I think second half of the year we're probably going to see a shift in our real estate market. And I don't mean like a buyer shift, but I mean like maybe a more traditional seller's market versus the extreme seller's market that we're experiencing right now.
Right.
But yeah, it's a very interesting time, and in 17 years, I've never seen anything like it. So.
Wow. Yeah. So I've only been in 7 years, and it just seems insane to me. So this is crazy. It's every day something new thrown at us. 182 price reductions over the last 7 days. That goes without saying that people are not really needing to reduce the price to sell their homes unless they're just extremely overpriced. So that's a very low number. We're always going to see some type of price reductions. There's always those listings out there that need a little bit of adjustment, but 182 is not much.
It's not. And the reality is, if you're a seller right now, I mean, you have two options. Yeah, if you got to move right away, you can still do a price adjustment within 30 days if you want to sell. But the reality is the market's literally appreciating 2 to 3% a month. We appreciated 25.2% for all of 2021. So you can literally sit on the market for 3-4 months and just have it appreciate up to your price. So if you're a seller, you're in a good spot right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we see it often, but more when there's a shortage of inventory, is buyers want to get creative, right? They want to try to find something that's not out there, that's not on the MLS or something like that, because they find a home, they like it, they make an offer. There's 30 more people that are offering. It's a bidding war, so they start sending us links. I mean, I get all the time screenshots and links from Zillow.
Yep.
So that's fun.
Too. Yeah. Look it up. It's already pending.
I love those. Thank you, Zillow.
It's great when you get 7 of them.
Right.
And 6 of them are pending. Another one's got 20 offers on it. So.
Right. Or that one's like, no show, contingent upon viewing or something like that. There's like, it's I think the consumers somehow think they're going to find something we don't know about.
Right.
And again, I mean, very rarely does that happen. I mean, if there's a for sale by owner that has a sign in his yard and that's not marketed anywhere online, we probably don't know about that.
Yeah.
But anything that's online, or I mean, us realtors know pretty much every home that's on the market or have access to it in some type of way.
Absolutely.
One of the things, I don't know if you get a lot of these, but I get these all of the time, and I think it's a good awareness kind of PSA message that we address this, is the Zillow pre-foreclosures. Do you have people that are asking you about these all the time?
Not so much Zillow, but I mean, obviously Zillow comes up, but foreclosure's been coming up since 2013. Like, can I get a foreclosure list? I mean, literally like a week ago, I had, a great client of mine, sweetheart, love her. But literally I was like, okay, well, I think there was like 2 last month,
Yeah.
And I think the reality is any deal right now is a good deal. If you can get under contract, that's the deal,
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be as focused on the foreclosures, but literally this is a conversation that's been going on for almost a decade, even when we were just coming out of it. I think everybody still has those flashbacks of 2007 and are just waiting for that. And I'm not seeing that. I think the next couple years look really healthy. Typically, we go into a real estate recession about every 20 years. 2007, 1987 were our two real estate recessions. So maybe 5 years away, and who knows, that's a little far out right now. But I think the next couple of years look really healthy. But what are you seeing on the Zillow pre-foreclosure?
So the pre-foreclosures, they're typically, Zillow lists them as a pre-foreclosure. They're not a foreclosure. They're actually, in our world, they're called notice of default. Mm-hmm. So Zillow will take these, and I tend to get these all the time from clients just sending me this, like, hey, I want to make an offer on this home. It's not on the market. It's a notice of default. So it's basically, what it is the owner of the home has defaulted on their payments, hasn't made their, been up to date on their payments. And I guess they get to a certain point where it gets recorded as a notice of default, where the bank says you need to get caught up, or else we're going to, proceed with foreclosure proceedings. So every time the notice of defaults are posted, Zillow will post this home as a pre-foreclosure.
Interesting.
So that home, and Zillow, being just wonderful as they are, will post it as, let's say, for instance, just to give you as just a scenario of what I've been able to see as looking as these, because I have people will send them to me and I research as much as I can on them. Mm-hmm. So say there's a $600,000 house and they owe a $250,000 mortgage.
Right.
Zillow will post that pre-foreclosure as $250,000. And the buyers will say, hey, I want to make an offer on this house. For one, it's not available.
Right.
It's not even been foreclosed on yet. The bank hasn't taken ownership. It's basically a notice. Yeah. That if the home were to come on the market, there's no way it's coming on the market at $250,000.
Absolutely, right.
So it's false.
Right. Yeah. If I'm a buyer in this market, I wouldn't pay too much attention to that, because here's the reality: if you buy a house today, literally for $400,000, right, and you close on it 30 days later, you've already appreciated $10,000. You could literally sell it the next day and break even. Correct. So anybody who's bought a house over the last 10 years has equity in the home. There's no reason anybody should be getting foreclosed on unless they fall asleep or forget to make their payments. Yeah. But it's not realistic in this type of market right now. So.
Right. And that's it. Once those notices are posted, I mean, at some point in time, I'm sure there's probably several realtors contacting these people, but someone's going to let them know if they've been buried under a rock and they don't know what's going on in the world right now. Someone's going to tell them, you can sell this home and make some profit. Yep. You have equity in the home. So that's why we don't have foreclosures, is there's no reason to foreclose.
Absolutely. And banks don't really want to foreclose on folks anymore, too. They saw what happened in 2007, and they got away from that. We saw that when the pandemic occurred right off the bat was, hey, we're not foreclosing on people, which was actually a good thing because it really helped us. Absolutely. It spurred the market, but they're actually going to work with those individuals. So how it works is if you don't make payments for 6 months, you get the notice of default. Then the fastest they can do it is 3 months after their post-foreclosure, and then it closes 30 days. That never occurs, though. Like back in the day in 2008, when we were doing the foreclosures left and right, they were foreclosing a year, 2, 3 years out. Mm-hmm. So they don't move fast on these things. And right now, banks are way more proactive with owners trying to keep them in the home because it's actually more financial viable for the bank for them to stay there versus it to foreclose.
Absolutely. And again, another reason to own a home is the security. Mm-hmm. If you have an issue, you have something that's, making you not be able to make your payments, you have 6 months at least, at minimum, to work that out. So you're not going to get that in a rental. So another reason. Another reason why you should own a home. Home ownership offers so many layers of security.
It does.
So that's one of the things that I get people trying to get creative. They'll send me, these pre-foreclosures. They want to buy them. They're not available to buy. So that's fun. That's fun. Thanks, Zillow. You guys are great.
Yeah, they've been crushing it for a decade. decade now. So yeah, those prices. Be careful of those prices too. Make sure you go to your realtor and check those out. Those estimates, right? They're either low, they're high, they're never right. But
they're never right.
So I know they try their best, but go to your realtor and find out what the real numbers are because they have a better understanding of the market.
Yeah, how many times have you seen, I know you work with a lot of for sale by owners, how many times have you seen a for sale by owner that wants to sell by the Zestimate that's actually under, and you're like, you're not saving any money here.
Oh, I know, it's crazy. Well, it's actually always been a good thing for me because it shifts because now you're the source of information. It's always got my foot in the door, you know. So, and kind of talking back too, because we're talking about for sale by owners, that's a good resource too if you're trying to find homes for your clients. 9 out of 10, I call FSBOs almost every single day, but 9 out of 10 for sale by owners, they'll actually work with agents and offer 2.5% to 3% co-op.
Yep.
So it's just keep that in mind as well. So that's another good source to try to find some properties.
Yep.
They're not on MLS, so.
That's actually, it's been a resource that I've been using a lot over the past few months is because of buyers and inventory shortage. And, you know, we see these homes that are, you know, if for sale by owner or someone that doesn't, you know, they don't want to go the traditional way of listing. I don't think it's really the smartest thing to do when you look at the overall picture. I mean, we know that they're probably not making the best choice there. However, it has been helpful for buyers that are, you know, shopping for homes and not being in that competition, you know, and us being able to still represent them and make sure that it's all done legitimately because, you know, for sale by owners are trying to get documents off of the internet.
Yeah, we tend to do both sides at that point. Well, at least I do. I can't speak for you, but yeah, it's a little bit more work for us, but because we want to do it right. Like, if you're a true professional, you know, you probably do the same thing.
Exactly.
You got to help them out and push things forward. It doesn't usually go as smooth as a traditional sell, but you got to do what's best for the client, and you know, sometimes you got to do that. But absolutely. But other ways you could do it as well. I mean, like I know Keller Williams and Berkshire Hathaway. I mean, they have pocket listings and off-market properties. Like
let's talk about that. What is a pocket listing?
A pocket listing is a property that's not on our MLS. So it is off-market. Berkshire actually has a database where we can actually go in and we just put the criteria for our buyer and properties will actually pop up for them.
Okay, so they're not on the MLS. So basically, like if I talk to a seller, you know, if I'm talking to somebody who's thinking of selling their home and they say, I want to sell my home. I might not be ready yet. I'm not ready to list it yet. But if you have a buyer, contact me. Yeah. That's a pocket listing.
Pocket listing. And I recommend if you're a realtor too, I would still get a listing signed, and it's right in the listing agreement that it's not going to be on MLS and it's not going to be marketed, right? Yes. So you're protected as well, and then you can really work it because there's other ways you can work properties, not just through MLS. You can you know, you can talk to other great realtors like yourself. You and I almost closed on a deal.
Yes.
I literally took a multiplex, listed it before it even went on the market, called you. You had an offer for me in 6 hours, full price.
Yes.
It didn't close. It wasn't our fault. The buyer and seller just couldn't get it together. But that's a great resource too, is networking with other great real estate agents and brokers in town.
Exactly.
That are before the properties get on the market, because there's folks that are just like, man, I don't want the craziness of 30, 40 offers. I just want my price and, you know, and just, you know.
Or have the showings. I mean, some sellers don't want to have 100 people trampling through their house, you know, and showings right now, I mean, there's lines sometimes outside doors. The showings can be exhausting all in themselves, especially if the sellers are still living in the house. So they see a convenience of like just getting this done ahead of time, you know, just getting it locked in, off the market. It's wrapped up really quick. So that is definitely a benefit. And having that, one thing to keep in mind too is, you know, while there's all of these buyers or, you know, people out there that say, hey, we'll give you a cash deal, no repairs, no showings, no whatever, those are usually low ball offers. When you have realtors doing this and working with other, you know, buyers that are traditional buyers, and we're not, you're not taking a low ball offer. You're usually getting full market value, what you're asking for, but having having someone that's able to, get that property like what we did, get it under contract before even going through all the showings and all of the nonsense.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember one time I had an appointment at like 3 and I had to wait like 45 minutes. My client's in there just on the street waiting our turn because there were so many people looking at the property. And yeah, with iBuyers too, be careful of those because they give you that nice shiny price of what they're gonna, and then they come in and they go, well, it's like now we've seen it, we're gonna just knock it down 20 grand.
Yeah.
And then they do an inspection on it because we have to do all these repairs and now we're gonna knock it down another 20 grand.
Yeah.
So that price that they're putting out there is rarely what it ends up being. So just be very aware of that. They give you a price so they can get a foot in the door. And they know it's a numbers game. They throw through 30 of those out there, and one person's going to take it. It's a numbers game for them.
Yeah, and if you say no, it's no loss to them. It is. It's
Absolutely.
Not because they're doing it on such a high volume. And that is, the minute you lock in a contract with an iBuyer, the negotiations start then. They're going to send you a good offer to get you locked in.
Yeah.
And then the negotiations start. So be very careful of those out there. That is never. I never recommend it. I mean, obviously we have, and I'm sure you guys do too, we have the Keller Offers iBuyer program and all of that.
Program.
And, if somebody really wants it, that's fine. But I always let them know that this isn't the best way to sell your home. I don't think it's the best way to sell your home.
It's not the best way. And honestly, too, their commissions tend to be higher than ours. So keep that as much, because a lot of folks go, well, I don't want to pay the commission.
They don't call it commission. They call it like an experience fee or something. So
it's like a convenience fee, which is not a convenient at all, right?
Yeah.
I'm paying more than the commission.
Yeah.
But yeah, just be careful of that. But I get it. Some people just don't want to mess, and that's okay. It's a good tool, but if you think you're going to net the most amount of money that way, it's very unrealistic, just to be very honest.
Yeah, and you got to review your contracts. I mean, if they advertise no commissions, and yes, that's true, no commissions because they don't call it commission. They call it an experience fee or whatever they call it.
Yeah,
but
it's probably
expensive. Doesn't mean it's not. It's the same thing. You're paying the same thing as a commission at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that buyers should keep in mind right now with low inventory, looking for homes, is hiring a realtor that is experienced, that does do what that is full time in the market, working daily, because that is. We're always, and I'm sure you're doing the same as well. I know you're doing the same as well because I know what you do. But we're always looking for options for properties off the market, networking with other realtors, keeping those relationships. Not every realtor has that. Not every realtor will do that. There's I don't know, 20,000 licensed agents in Nevada, and some of them are, doing other things during the day and or just not full time with a pulse on the market. And we keep those relationships, and that helps us to find things like before they hit the market, to prospect. I mean, I know you do a lot of prospecting where you call around and talk to people that are looking to sell, and you can pair them up with a buyer before it hits the market.
Absolutely, yeah. If you don't have a big, say you're a newer agent and you don't have a big network of other agents right now, there are a couple options. You can circle prospect neighborhoods that your potential client is looking at. You could work with other big teams if you're newer, but there are other options. And prospecting is a great source. You know me, I'm big on prospecting.
Yes.
But yeah, prospecting is a great source to find. Then you get both deals. You get the seller and you get the buyer. So what a great time to get into prospecting. Because
absolutely.
I feel like prospecting has turned into the dinosaur of the real estate market. Nobody's doing it anymore, and and social media is great and everything, don't get me wrong. I love social media. It's awesome. But prospecting is a great tool that we're seeing our industry get away from, and it is still the most effective way to get business. So if you don't have a lot of money, you're new to the business, get lean and mean and hit the phones and go out there and find some great business.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that is social media. While social media is great, social media marketing is one of those things that like everybody's on now, right? Everyone's doing social media. Yeah. Everyone.
It is.
And me too.
And you're phenomenal at it. Obviously, you're crushing it. So.
Yes. One thing that I have found that did not work when I got into real estate in 2014, I did a couple different mailer campaigns, postcard campaigns, mailer campaigns to neighborhoods, things like that. They didn't really have much a response.
Yeah.
They didn't really work too well. Recently, I've done those again just because, just everybody's on social media. So I've done these like postcard campaigns, especially to neighborhoods. If I have a buyer that really loves this subdivision, in the homes, we know that the homes that are in that subdivision are within their price range. I mean, if they're searching for a 350 house and the homes in the subdivision are selling for 600, come on now, let's be realistic.
Right.
But if they're searching for a 350 home and the homes in the subdivision have sold between 320 and 350, we know that there's a possibility of them getting a home in that market. It just might not be on the market right now.
Yeah.
So we'll send out a postcard campaign, or even have the buyers, love letters are not a thing anymore, but we'll have a letter about, that just says we have a buyer looking for a home in this neighborhood or something like that.
Great.
And we'll mail that out. We are actually getting response on it.
Awesome.
The only,
That's good to hear.
Yeah, the only, I guess, complaint I would have on that is the response is not always quick.
No, it's not. I used to be into postcards too, and our team is just getting back into postcards. And you really, I think your campaign is great for getting more instant business. But anything you do, prospecting, postcards, whatever, you know this, it takes 18, 24 months to see those results. So just be aware of that. And postcards can be very expensive. I think postcards are an amazing pillar to show social proof, or be like you're being very proactive, being very specific, which is awesome. But just be aware of that when you start getting into postcards. It's a good tool. Absolutely.
It's a good tool, but yeah, it's not instant. It's not like someone gets a postcard and calls you.
No.
I've had that happen where it's quick and it's like, wow, that was awesome. But it's not something you can count on is going to happen. However,
Absolutely.
I have had some success in that. And that's actually how I found my home. I picked the community before I picked the home.
Oh,
so,
awesome.
Yeah, I said, my husband said, we want to live here.
Oh, good.
So I said, okay, now I know where we want to live. Now I just got to find the house. So
Cool.
through mailers, we eventually got got our house in the community where we wanted to be at,
Oh, wow.
and it wasn't on the market, and that's it worked.
That's a great story.
So-
That's so cool.
Yeah, so sometimes and I tell buyers that too, like when I start working with them with this inventory shortage is, if you know of a place where you say, I want a home in here, and floor plans are subdivisions are so predictable, right?
They
So
are.
most subdivisions, it's like they have a 1577 square foot and a 1680 square foot. And once if you know that model of the home that you want, it's kind of easy from that point on. It's just finding someone willing to sell it.
Absolutely. And I mean, we'll see the same floor plans. You'll go in Summerlin, short floor, and then you go to Henderson, you'll see the same floor plan, right? So if you've been in the business long enough, you kind of know them all.
Yes.
But going back to postcards too, if you're going to do it, double down on it. Make sure you're doing open houses, doing the circle prospecting, do it all.
Door knocking.
Love that. You know me.
Door knocking.
Door knocking's phenomenal. But yeah, make sure you go all in. If it's not community, whatever, hit it from all different angles. Because if you just throw the postcard, yeah, you'll get business. But if you're not proactive about it, you're going to probably break even on it. But if you do all those other things, then it's going to really start. You're going to see a lot of results from it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, if you're looking for a home and you're having a struggle, talk to your realtor about. Make sure they're prospecting. Make sure that you're talking to somebody that is looking and trying to find some additional options, because that can help you towards success. And
Absolutely.
the last thing I want to talk about, John, is probate sales, because we touched a little bit about foreclosures and what those are, and there's not any. Short sales, I haven't seen those around for a while.
Thank God.
Every once in a while we see a random short sale, but we're not really in that market right now. So I can't imagine who doesn't have equity right now. So I don't see the need for a short sale. However, we are running across a lot. I think I've been running across more than normal of probate sales. Have you been seeing a lot of these?
Yeah, I'm not an expert at probate sales. I probably only do about 1 or 2 a year, but yeah, definitely recommend to hire a probate attorney through that process. But so you've been seeing more success with it with probate?
Yeah, so probate sales, I mean, on the listing side, yeah, you definitely want to have an attorney, handling the probate process for you. And, the listing agent, we work with the attorney and, we can get all of that done as far as the listing side. But buyers that are looking to buy a probate property, what are things that they should keep in mind? What do you think is important that they should know about that?
Well, I think the major thing is once you go under contract, there will be a date on it where actually when you go to that court date in front of the judge, there is an opportunity for folks to actually bid on it. And recently I was actually just talking to a friend of mine at Berkshire who actually was representing the seller, but they had an offer on it, they accepted it, went to court, and they got outbidded $5,000, sold as is. Yeah, so that is not an issue we've run into really in the past with that because that's always been a thing. But just keep that in mind once you go through that process. That is, you got to get past that court date before closing. It will be contingent upon the probate being approved.
Absolutely. So even though you have an accepted contract, doesn't mean you're moving in the home.
Right.
45 days usually is the average before you get the court date.
Yeah.
And once you get that court date, yes, it's open bidding. So a cash investor can go in there and outbid you in court. You do have the right to raise your bid once you get to court. They're doing everything virtual these days. So usually about 2 to 3 days before they notify you if there's any bidders on the property. So the buyer knows to make sure to log in and view court and see things like that. But there's risk. I mean, that's risky. And in a market right now that we're in where, every 30 days homes are raising, $10,000 on average, it's very likely that an investor is going to see that as an opportunity because you locked in in a price that was 45 days old.
Right.
So you're in a lot of risk there. It's not that it doesn't happen. People buy probate sales all the time.
Absolutely.
But buyers have to be aware of the risk.
I think so. And if I'm a buyer, I would just continue to be proactive because you have contingencies within your contract and not just probates, but any offer or any deal that's fully exited can go sideways. I mean, that's just the reality of it. So just continue to be proactive, open-minded, be positive, rely on a great agent just like Trish, who's going to be able to lead you in that direction through that entire process. So
yes, and like John too. And John, again, I know we're probably saying this over and over again, but sellers, this is the perfect time for sellers to list. With the inventory the way that it is, sellers can get the most money in their pocket at this point in time, and that the market's not always this way.
It's never this way. Yeah, so you're absolutely right.
Yes.
So yeah, I would say, spring is going to be phenomenal. It's going to be bonkers this year. If you're a seller, you're going to get 20, 30 offers on your property. I do think just everything we're saying, like we were talking before, with prices going up, interest rates going up. I mean, we've already seen the interest starting to raise, so be aware of that. They've already said they're going to raise them 3 times this year, 3 times next year. So with prices and that, and then builders now getting behind, we are going to see a shift where we're probably going to see more of a normalized seller's market where you're getting maybe 2, 3 offers versus where you can basically kind of put any price on the market right now. So spring is going to be an awesome time. And again, if you're a buyer, really focus on the next 45 days to get under contract before spring because it's going to get very, very, very tough for you. Right.
And I'm dreading the future or thinking about this a lot is once we go back to normal, or if we ever go back to normal, a normal seller's market of going through and counseling these sellers that this isn't going to happen anymore. That's going to be a struggle, because the sellers are going to be telling us that my friend sold a house with no repairs, within 30 offers, and they paid $50,000 over, and telling them, breaking the news that that's not going to happen anymore. In the future, right now, everything goes, but in the future, once things calm down, that's going to be fun for us.
Absolutely. And usually the public's about 3 to 6 months behind, what's really going on in the real estate market. So if you're a buyer or seller out there, make sure to stay in contact with your broker, your agent at all times, because they really have a pulse on the market and let you know realistically what's going on, versus a friend that has a feeling about the market or thinks they know about it. I would always rely on if you have got a great realtor, give them a call.
Yeah. How many buyers friends do we have that are still waiting on the crash?
Oh my gosh, since 2011. I have a whole stack of them.
Yes, I do too.
It's crazy. We're still talking about that,
Yeah, I do too. It's when houses hit 200,000 median price range, people were like, I'm just going to wait for it to crash again.
I know. It's
They're
it's
still
so
waiting.
funny. I was thinking about this yesterday, and I'm really driving because I was like, it started like in 2030. It was like, oh, the next crash, the next crash. I'm like, unfortunately, those are the same folks whenever it does shift. Say it does crash 5 years from now. We don't know. It's too far out. Say it does crash. Those are the same folks that are probably not going to buy. And they're going to say, the economy's bad or da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So,
there's an excuse. Yeah.
Make sure you really do your research of what is going on with the market and really understand it, because there's so much great information out there. Because when the pandemic hit, we had a pretty good idea the market was not going to crash. There was a lot of economic factors that were not saying that, but everybody had a feeling that it was. And then we just experienced the most appreciation in Las Vegas has ever occurred. Mm-hmm. So again, call your realtor or really study the market to have a better understanding of it.
Yeah, so. And that's what I tell people when they ask me about, is the market going to crash or, what's going to happen? There's just nothing, there's no data showing that.
No.
You got to have evidence, and I don't see any. Could it happen? Anything could happen, but I don't see any evidence showing that it's going that direction. So that's, that it just doesn't seem realistic. And, you talk to people that when someone wants to buy a home, that the want never goes away. So you talk to people, and I've talked to people that, 2 years ago, they're like, oh, I tried to buy a home 2 years ago and prices seemed so high and I backed off, and now I need to make this happen. And it hurts me almost, because I'm just like, wow, if you would have bought a home 2 years ago, imagine all the equity you would have right now. Like that. It is what it is, but that want never went away. So now they find themselves in a higher price point, and they end up making, they're motivated. They end up making it happen, but it's, the ship sailed for the lower prices they could have been in.
Yeah, fortunately. And if you're a buyer right now, I think the next 2 years look really healthy for the real estate. So if you're feeling that right now, you're listening to this and you think you may want to buy a house, go buy a house.
Buy a house, yeah.
Get into the market and invest, and then plan your exit strategy. Because the cool thing is you got somebody who's Trish, who's going to call you every quarter, let you know what's going on with the real estate market. When that thing starts shifting, you're going to know. She's going to let you know. So get into the market and then plan an exit strategy when you start seeing a shift.
Yeah. Or stick it out.
Stick it out too. Yeah. But that's worst case scenario, right?
Yeah.
So many people want to wait till it happens versus just getting, like you said, if those folks had just gone 2 years ago, their house would have had $100,000 of equity right now.
And even if they would have bought a townhouse or a condo, they'd have all of this equity. It doesn't matter if it wasn't their dream home. Yep. They would have had something to lock them in, and they'd have equity right now to do more with. So, and that's it. And when I was a victim of the crash. Of course, I owned. We had owned 2 homes during the crash that were worth way less than what we owed on them, but we stuck it out. So
You're smart.
We did. We never we didn't do the short sell thing or whatever. We just we rode it out. We stuck it out, and both of them at this point we had ended up selling both homes, and we made money on both of them. So
That's awesome.
So
good story.
If markets change. Markets shift, and you just, it's like the stock market. You don't sell when it's low. You just kind of hold out.
Absolutely. I think you bring up a great point. And interest rates are still they've gone up a little bit, but they're still very low. So say worst case scenario, there is a shift in the market. Your mortgage is still going to be very low. It's going to be lower than rent. Or, maybe rent comes down and it's just about the same, but you're still building equity.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense to be investing in the market. And then when it comes time, keep it, sell it, whatever. But you'll have more options when the market shifts and you own property versus not having property.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. If you don't have property and whatever, when markets raise or fall, you're subject to whatever's going on in the market.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. During the crash, I said this last week, mortgages weren't even available. The terms on mortgages were horrible.
Absolutely.
The average person couldn't get a mortgage. So that's
that. You couldn't buy a condo. And keep in mind, in Las Vegas here, we are literally growing so rapidly. I mean, I think we're still the best deal on the West Coast and Mountain West. All these other areas that are not building, they've seen even more appreciation. But we've seen a huge migration to Las Vegas, and everything has indicated that that is going to continue, which is a great thing for the city in terms of real estate. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. John, how do people reach you if they want to talk some more about real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. Call or text me anytime, 702-606-2286.
All right, and that's John McNamara III at Berkshire Hathaway, Nevada Properties.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to reach me, of course, Trish Williams, 702-308-2878. Keep watching our show. Like, comment, share, download, tell your friends. Our downloads have been doing amazing lately, so it seems like a lot of you guys are listening to us on Audible or iTunes or wherever we're out there in the audio world. So thank you for that. We are loving seeing all the activity that's happening. Tune in next week for Realty Check with Trish Williams.